Welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping right in today because, well, I think you know that incredibly specific, really heavy feeling, like when you're staring at a screen and you have, I don't know, 50 tabs open.
Oh, absolutely. And your phone is just like constantly buzzing with 3 different group chats at the exact same time.
Yes, exactly. And you have this sudden, terrifying realization that while your access to information is multiplying by the second, your actual capacity to pay attention is it's completely withering away.
It really is. I mean, we are practically drowning in data right now.
We are. We're constantly bombarded by breaking news, hot takes, and this intense pressure to have an immediate opinion on literally everything.
It's pretty much the defining paradox of our modern digital existence.
Yeah.
We're completely surrounded by these rapidly proliferating means of connection, right? Endless streams of content.
Right.
Yet the individual faces this very real, very visceral risk of simply losing themselves in all that noise. Because the machinery of our daily lives demands constant output, leaving almost zero room for internal synthesis.
And in a world that is profoundly obsessed with visibility, being seen, being loud, taking a side instantly to prove you're engaged, finding someone with a true, grounded stance has become incredibly rare.
Almost impossible to find, yeah.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We are looking at a deeply fascinating collection of philosophical essays, specifically a preface, essay 1 and essay 2, that do something completely radical for the era we live in.
They really do. They don't shout over the noise.
Exactly. They don't try to forcefully persuade you of some brand new ideology. Instead, they offer a very quiet, very firm proposal to just slow down, right at that threshold where we feel like we're disappearing into information overload.
What's fascinating here is the foundational intention behind these ideas. I mean, this philosophy explicitly does not claim to teach you anything novel.
Which is wild for a philosophy book.
Right. It is not adding a 51st tab to your mental browser. Instead, it operates on this profound idea that your true need right now, as you listen to this, might not actually be to learn another new fact.
Or acquire another data point.
Exactly. Your true need might be to take the concepts you already inherently possess, things like the consciousness of trust, the desire for balance, your own identity, and finally just settle them into their proper places.
Okay, let's unpack this because that is a massive perspective shift. Settle what is already known.
Yeah.
Because we have all these raw materials, right? These fragmented thoughts and anxieties floating around in our heads, but they are completely chaotic.
It's just a total mess.
It reminds me of a situation I think we can all relate to. Imagine you have a completely messy, chaotic room in your house.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right. And your first instinct is usually, oh, I need to buy more storage bins. You assume you need a new system or a new app or framework to impose order from the outside.
Right. You think the problem is a lack of containers.
Exactly. But really, the act of picking up an item, looking at it, and deciding, do I keep this or throw it away? That physical act of editing is what actually creates the order.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. We constantly think we need a new container for our thoughts, when what we actually need is a rigorous process of elimination.
Yeah.
I mean, this philosophy completely flips how we usually think about writing and thinking. We tend to assume we have to have a fully formed, perfectly organized thought first, then we just, write it down and record it.
Like transcribing a perfect speech.
Right. But the argument here is the exact opposite. A person doesn't write or speak to organize their thoughts. Rather, they become organized through the friction of expressing them.
Oh, wow.
And the very first step in refining that thought is stripping away the excess.
So it's about looking at those scattered meditative notes, whether they're bullet points on your screen or half-finished thoughts in a journal, or even just the anxieties keeping you awake at night and not trying to preserve them exactly as they are in all their chaotic glory.
Exactly. The goal is to bring forth what the underlying signal actually wishes to tell us beneath all that static.
So you edit.
You have to edit. Sentences must be shortened. Those clever metaphors that really just show off how smart you are, those must be culled.
Ouch.
The repetitive loops of anxiety are allowed to fall silent. You stop multiplying words and you start creating space for the core truth to breathe.
But wait, let me push back on this a little. If I strip away all that raw material, if I cut out the sprawling thoughts, the intense adjectives, and the raw emotion, doesn't the thought just become sterile?
How do you mean?
Like, I imagine if I apply that to my daily life, I just turn into a corporate robot writing incredibly dry, lifeless emails. We associate volume and intense emotion with authenticity these days.
And that is the exact trap of the modern communication style. We falsely equate more words and louder emotions with deeper meaning.
We really do.
But stripping away the excess is not a loss of authenticity. It's a massive gain in clarity. To prevent the thought from becoming a sterile corporate robot, as you put it, this philosophy introduces a crucial mechanism.
Okay.
It's called measure. Think of measure as the ultimate morality of a thought.
The morality of a thought. I mean, that sounds beautiful, but how does someone actually achieve that? What is the mechanism of measure in practice?
Well, measure acts as an internal thermostat rather than a thermometer.
A thermostat.
Yeah, a thermometer just passively reflects the heat of the room, right? The internet is angry, you reflect anger. But a thermostat regulates the environment.
Oh.
Measure is the bridge built between extremes. It prevents an exaggeration that overflows with blinding emotion, but it also prevents a coldness that withers the idea entirely.
So it's about finding the structural integrity of the idea.
Precisely.
So, okay, if I'm drafting an email to a colleague who really upset me, applying measure might mean writing the entire angry draft to get the raw emotion out, but then enforcing a 24-hour waiting period.
A very smart move.
Right. I come back, I strip away the personal attacks and the heavy adjectives, and what's left is the actual boundary I need to set. I don't lose the gravity of the situation, but I don't let my anger weigh down the objective truth.
Yes, and it applies to joy and humor as well. If there is humor in your delivery, measure ensures it doesn't wound the gravity of the subject.
That's a great point.
If there is profound gravity, measure ensures it doesn't extinguish the joy of life. When you communicate with this kind of internal regulation, anyone who interacts with your ideas feels neither strained nor scattered. They feel grounded.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
There is an old poetic couplet in the text that perfectly captures this process of finding your center. It goes, "The word you deem scattered finds order in the heart. Every thought written with measure bears witness to time."
Bears witness to time. That raises a really important question. How does an essay or a piece of writing, or really any piece of knowledge we try to absorb, actually survive the test of time?
It's a tough test to pass.
Because we've all had the experience of stumbling across an article or even our own social media posts from just like 3 or 4 years ago and just cringe.
Oh, the absolute worst.
Right. They age terribly because they were so caught up in the hyper-specific outrage of that particular Tuesday, they feel completely irrelevant now.
That cringe factor, that is the lack of measure. The ultimate diagnostic test for the validity of a thought is time. Thoughts that lean on individuals, on the daily news agenda, or on specific fleeting political disputes have a built-in expiration date. They decay the moment the news cycle moves on.
But thoughts that lean on values, those grow with age.
Exactly. Because by focusing on virtues rather than specific names and underlying principles rather than the scandalous event of the day, you step completely off the frantic timeline of the current era.
You step onto the common ground of humanity.
Right. A measured thought preserves its meaning, even as the culture around it shifts. It transforms from just a loud voice in a crowded room into a silent, enduring witness.
And for you listening, think about how you consume information right now. When you are scrolling through your feeds or prepping for a meeting or trying to form an opinion on a complex cultural topic, where is your attention directed?
The vital question.
Are you obsessing over the fleeting names, the drama, and the daily events? Or are you actively searching for the underlying virtues and principles at play?
Yeah.
Because if you are only chasing the names and the daily drama, you are guaranteeing that you will feel scattered and exhausted. Focusing your attention on the principles is the absolute core mechanic of being truly well-informed. It makes you resilient against the noise.
It's the stark difference between knowing what is being shouted today and knowing where you stand every single day.
I love that.
Operating this way isn't just a communication strategy. It's an entire attitude toward living. It is a searching, positive, centered attitude.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We've been living in the internal world so far, decluttering our minds, finding our internal thermostat of measure, shifting our focus from fleeting drama to enduring values.
Internal work.
Right. But once we have that quiet, organized mindset, what happens when we take it out into an incredibly loud, chaotic world?
That's where the real test begins.
Exactly. And this philosophy transitions from internal organization to external action by introducing the concept of the day-faced stance.
The day-faced stance is such a striking, evocative term.
It really is.
You can spot a person with a day-faced stance because their presence is felt long before you ever see their tangible work. They are the people who teach without speaking.
Wow.
They set a clear direction without ever raising their voice to argue. What differentiates them isn't an aggressive pursuit of influence, but a persistent, undeniable insistence on goodness, which they maintain with absolute dignity.
So they aren't the ones trying to optimize their personal brand or go viral for a hot take.
Far from it. To be day-faced is a deliberate refusal to grow accustomed to the darkness. It is an active, dignified, daily resistance against the gravitational pull of societal cynicism.
To really ground this, the philosophy uses this incredibly powerful metaphor of a neglected well.
Such a great metaphor.
Imagine a well sitting right in the center of a community, but it's completely choked with debris. But the debris isn't literal garbage. The things cast into this well are the careless, callous judgments we drop on each other without a second thought.
Yeah.
It is the toxic sludge of a corporate Slack channel. It is the unmoderated cruelty of an anonymous comment section. It is the collective responsibilities abandoned by people who just walk by, shrug, and say, "What is it to me?"
That phrase right there, "what is it to me," is the ultimate modern debris.
It really is.
It is the bystander effect weaponized into a culture. But there is a profound realization offered here, anchored by another thought from the text. It is not the water that is murky, but the eye that does not look.
The eye that does not look.
Yes. The water at the bottom of that communal well isn't fundamentally flawed. The potential for clarity is still there, waiting. The issue is simply that no one is willing to lean over and look, let alone volunteer to do the grueling work of cleaning it out.
Because descending into that well is exhausting, filthy work. Real goodness doesn't begin with a grand, sweeping mission statement, right? It begins with a silent, solitary descent into the mess.
And that is a massively unappealing prospect for most of us.
Because down in the well, there is no audience. There's no algorithm rewarding your engagement. There's no applause. It is a dark, quiet place where your true intention is ruthlessly tested. Do you actually care about fixing the toxic culture at your job, or did you just want the credit for being the hero?
Exactly. And cleaning that well requires an immense reserve of patience. A hasty, loud attempt at cleaning is superficial. True depth takes slow, agonizing time. A person must cleanse both their inner world and their external surroundings with constancy, not speed.
Okay, but I have a hypothesis here.
Let's hear it.
Logically, you would think that human nature being what it is, when someone finally does do that hard work, when they take on the burden, clean out the callous judgments, and bring clear, drinkable water back to the surface for everyone, they'd be greeted with a parade.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Oh, right. The community or the team at work should be rushing to thank them for fixing the environment.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of human psychology, we uncover a deeply uncomfortable reality. When true, unselfish goodness emerges in a cynical environment, the first people to arrive at the well are rarely the ones offering gratitude.
Really?
Instead, they arrive armed with suspicion. The very first thing they ask the person climbing out of the well is, "Who are you?"
Wait, they attack the person who just helped them. Why on earth is that the default human reaction to witnessing goodness?
Because the question, "Who are you?" is nothing more than a psychological veil. It is a defense mechanism deployed by the crowd to mask their own internal guilt.
Oh, I see.
The unspoken second half of that question is, and why did I not do it? When someone else quietly cleans the well, their action holds a blinding mirror up to every single person who walked past it and said, "What is it to me?" The crowd's ego cannot handle that reflection. So the doer's intention is immediately interrogated. Their methods are hypercriticized. Their quiet courage is deliberately mislabeled as arrogance or like a hidden agenda.
I'd imagine surviving that kind of cynical backlash requires a massive ego. You'd have to aggressively believe you are the solitary savior of the world to keep going when everyone is tearing you down.
A lot of people try that route.
But that totally contradicts the quiet, measured stance we just talked about. How do you not just become deeply embittered and give up?
You don't survive it with ego. You survive it through the vital concept of eminent, which translates to a profound sense of trust or stewardship.
Eminent. Trust.
Yes. The person who is truly day-faced understands that performing an act of goodness is not a display of personal superiority. It is not an ego trip. It is simply the assumption of a responsibility that belongs to all of us.
They're honoring a fundamental trust.
Exactly. They are honoring the trust that has been placed in them by their own humanity. Doing good doesn't aggrandize the doer. It merely reminds them of their duty as a steward.
And that internal grounding entirely dictates how they interact with the mob standing around the well. I mean, there is highly specific advice here in the essays on how to handle the harshness of critics.
There is, and it's brilliant.
You don't fight back and you don't run away. You respond with a greeting, a salam, a declaration of peace.
Yes, but it's crucial to understand the mechanics of this greeting. Offering a salam to someone who is attacking your intentions is not a natural reflex. It requires an immense level of internal refinement and measure.
Let me push back on that, though, because in today's combative digital culture, responding to harsh criticism or a pile-on with a peaceful greeting sounds a lot like just rolling over.
I know it sounds that way.
It sounds like being a doormat. If someone is attacking my work in a public forum, why shouldn't I defend myself and prove them wrong?
Because getting down in the mud to fight them just adds more debris back into well, you just spent all that time cleaning.
Oh, that's a gut punch.
This peaceful greeting is neither an escape nor a surrender. It does not invite a pointless debate, but it absolutely does not back down. It is the ultimate display of firm, unbothered dignity.
Yeah.
It is a stance that communicates loudly and clearly, I am here, my feet are planted, and I know the exact measure of my work. Your suspicion does not dictate my reality.
I know the measure of my work. That circles all the way back to the beginning. Because they have established their internal thermostat, external validation, or the complete lack of it, does not have the power to break them.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They are not reliant on the applause, so the absence of applause doesn't starve them.
But let's be real, embarking on this kind of path is terrifying. It is scary to put your head above the parapet and try to improve a toxic system.
Of course it is.
And this philosophy fully acknowledges that, noting that the mother of goodness is very often fear. The fear of being chronically misunderstood, the fear of social isolation.
The fear of actually being harmed by the cynics who benefit from the murky water.
Yes. Experiencing that fear is entirely human.
It is. But the profound transformation occurs when that raw fear is processed through the consciousness of eminent, that deep sense of stewardship. When you internalize that you are merely a custodian of goodness, the fear metabolizes into a profound sense of security.
A sense of security.
Yes, because the human heart finds an unbreakable peace when it anchors itself to a fundamental law of the universe. No work done with pure intention and with the consciousness of trust, is ever truly left orphaned.
No good work is left orphaned. What a liberating way to frame our responsibilities. You don't have to carry the weight of saving the entire world on your shoulders.
You really don't.
You don't have to force everyone in your office or in your family to agree with your worldview. You just do what is within your reach. You clean the specific debris that is right in front of you, and the rest of it, the ultimate outcome, that belongs to the realm of wisdom far beyond your control.
You do your part, and you relinquish control of the results. And the beautiful truth is, eventually, the well is cleaned. The clear water reveals itself again to the community.
So, what does this all mean? If we look at the entire arc of the journey we've just been on,
It's quite a journey.
we started by looking at the scattered, chaotic anxieties and the 50 open tabs in our minds, realizing we didn't need a new system. We just needed to edit. We needed to create space by stripping away the noise to find our internal measure. We shifted our focus from the exhausting daily drama to enduring principles so our thoughts could survive the test of time.
Yeah.
And then we took that balanced, measured mind down into the murky, neglected well of the modern world. We did the quiet, unglamorous work of cleaning up the callousness, fully knowing there would be no applause, and choosing to respond to the inevitable cynicism of the crowd with a firm, dignified, unbothered peace.
It is a breathtakingly complete philosophy of action. And the final vital realization it leaves us with is a shift in perspective.
How so?
When that communal well is finally clean and the water is visible, the water didn't magically appear. The well itself wasn't fundamentally transformed. The water was always there, waiting underneath the debris.
Oh, wow.
What truly changed was the perspective of the community. Every single cleaned well serves as undeniable proof that goodness is, in fact, contagious. But it does not multiply through noise.
Yeah.
It does not spread by shouting your opinions louder than the next person or gaming an algorithm.
It spreads through the quiet, day-faced courage of just one person deciding to start.
It grows organically,
Yeah.
quietly, only as hope, perseverance, and unshakable resolve take root in a mind that has found its center.
It's an incredibly powerful framework for navigating an age defined by overload and outrage. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something completely new to ponder as you step back out into the friction of your day. We talked earlier about how a thought written with measure bears witness to time, right? Stepping off the daily news cycle to become a lasting legacy.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to apply that to the very real digital footprint you are creating every single day. The comments you leave, the emails you send, the content you share.
That's a heavy thought.
If true goodness doesn't need an audience, and if unmeasured thoughts expire the second the outrage fades, 100 years from now, when someone looks at the permanent record of how you move through this chaotic era, will the timeline remember your noise, or will it remember your measure?